Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. On the podcast with us today is Jason Lucchesi, and he is the #1 best-selling author and host of the hit iTunes podcast, the No Flipping Excuses show. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Dan and Danae.
Hi, Jason. We're looking forward to talking to you here for a few minutes today, and want to see if you can kind of get us started with just a little bit of your background as a business person and entrepreneur.
First of all, thank you for having me on your guys' show. I've been listening to some of the episodes, and they're truly a treat. So I appreciate you guys having me on. And just for a little bit about me is I've kind of always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Even from a young age, I would go from door to door trying to knock on people's doors to see if I could mow their lawns for money. And when I got out of high school, I did not go to college. I went right into sales, started doing mortgages. And as the economy started getting bad in 2008, probably the worst our economy has seen in about 80 years, I got into real estate, believe it or not, when most people are like, you got to be crazy to be getting into real estate right now with everything tanking. And I needed to get it going. I was in a really bad position. My wife was pregnant with our firstborn, and I lost all my money with the company I was with before. So I needed to make something happen, and I felt real estate was the vehicle to get me there. I was a young kid growing up watching the Carlton Sheets infomercials, and when I got out of the business in 2008 with the mortgages, I truly felt like it couldn't have been better timing for me to get involved with that.
Well, I'm sure that you have had, a lot of tough decisions along this journey that you've had as a real estate investor and entrepreneur. And it's been a little over a decade now after the bubble burst, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I know house flipping is on the rise and things like that. So, what are some of the things that, some of the tough decisions that you've had along this journey that you are on right now as a real estate investor?
I think first getting started, and I know off air we were talking a little bit about it. And I personally, when I first got started, I maxed out so many different credit cards, buying training program after training program. And I truly just got in my own way. There was nothing wrong with the training programs. The educators, I'm sure, put forth really great programs. But when you buy 6 or 7 different programs, you get in your own way because you're pretty much self-sabotaging. You're going after shiny object after shiny object. And what I really needed to focus on was, getting my first deal done. And it wasn't going to happen with me spreading myself, thin on all of these different niches. So I needed to really make something happen. And in order for me to do that was focusing on one particular strategy. And that at that time was short sales. Short sales were extremely on the rise at that time and around 2008-ish. And that was the best path for me. I felt like I could really make a go of it, and I did. And no looking back on it.
Can you share with us what are some things that you did at that time to get out of your own way?
Well, first of all, I really just needed to pick out a course that I felt was most comfortable for me to go out and happen. And it was the short sales. And to be honest with you, I needed to get out of my own way because I was just putting forth, roadblock after roadblock, thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. This is too good to be true. And I just had these mental roadblocks. And I just needed to get it going. My firstborn son was on his way, and I needed to make something happen. And that was, driving around from real estate agent office to real estate agent office, see if anybody would be willing to let me have a go at some of their short sales, or going down to the county recorder's office and, picking out people that have just recently been filed a notice of default, whatever it may be. I needed to make that happen. And once I was able to get my business, starting to go, getting out of my own way and not doing everything myself, and, letting go and allowing me to hire an executive assistant, that was the biggest shift in my business, was hiring somebody that I can just give work to that was pretty much limiting me from my potential with growing the company.
So Jason, from the time that you realized that, okay, I've got to do something and we're going to focus in on the short sales, and you decided to put all of your attention there and then really just put all of your energy in, how long did it take for you to really see some changes, and what kind of changes did you see at first, and how did you feel that momentum shifting for you?
Well, as you guys may or may not know, or the listeners that are listening to this, short sales can take a long time. So it was definitely a patience factor. I did the negotiations at first myself with the actual banking institutions to get the lowest price possible that we can acquire that property for. And, the realization of being able to, you have to stay consistent. Anything in business, anything in life, either you're going to the gym every day, either you're eating clean meals throughout the day to lose weight, whatever it may be, you have to stay consistent at it, right? You can't just be like, oh, I ate really clean yesterday, but I'm not seeing any weight loss. And you just ate, at Five Guys, and you had a triple stack cheeseburger and some French fries, and you're like, man, I'm not seeing weight loss. It's like the same exact thing with real estate. You have to stay consistent with it in order to see the results you want. And I didn't see results right off the bat. Was short sales probably the best route to make, cash quickly? Probably not, but it was the best route for me at that time. And the momentum really started once, I started getting, 30, 40, 50 deals under contract. And then once I got that first deal closed, I still remember it to this day. We were on vacation in Myrtle Beach. We had a timeshare. So luckily for the timeshare, we were able to go. If not, I barely had any money left in my bank account. And I closed the deal while I was gone, made a net profit of close to $27,000. And that was really where things took a gigantic turn forward. And then closings just started happening like clockwork every single month from that point on.
Is that what you're currently in right now, is short sales?
No. So right now it's a lot of wholesaling. So 70% of my business is going to be wholesaling. 10% of it's going to be fix and flips. And the remaining 20% is going to be building up long-term wealth with either it be apartments, self-storage facilities, or single-family residences that are producing income.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the tough decisions that you're seeing right now that you're making in regards to these various, types of real estate that you're investing in?
That's a great question. And the easiest way that I could answer it is I've had to cut back on doing rehabs quite a bit, just because right now the market is so cyclical. We always see paths happen at the end of a decade, right? So we see stuff happen in the end of the 70s, the end of the 80s, the end of the 90s, the end of the 2000s, where we saw like the biggest economic crash since, the Great Depression. And now we're starting to see things start to happen a little bit more. We're in 2018. We saw things go up, and then we were at the peak. And then I believe things are starting to possibly shift, more in a downward trend, meaning that, I think a lot of things that are going to happen, student loans are crazy, credit cards, we've never been in more debt as a country with consumer debt. And we're starting to see subprime loans come back on the market with adjustable rate mortgages after, a fixed period of 1 year. And we're starting to see a little bit of change. So from a stability factor, I didn't quite have that confidence needed in order to continue to do rehabs. So I've cut that and scaled that back by, about 50% and focused more on wholesaling just because it's a quick transaction. It's same day, make quick cash. And if I want to go and put cash into income producing assets, I would feel much more comfortable doing that.
And what is one strategy that you like to do when you have a tough decision like this, or like the one you mentioned earlier? What is something that you like to do when you're facing that tough decision?
Whenever there's a tough decision, first of all, I need to sit down and realize, hey, we're all human. So I sit down, I breathe, I focus. I really try and just sit down, don't have any distractions around. I put my phone on silent. I put it in my desk drawer, and I just try and sit down and just think about the potential outcomes, the potential risks, anything associated with the decision that I'm about to make, because most people don't really sit down and just be in their thoughts, be present in the moment. And I like to just kind of think about things. I'm not an analysis paralysis guy. Normally I make decisions pretty quickly, but sometimes you just need to kind of sit down and enjoy the moment. And if you do need to make a tough decision, I wouldn't make something in a hasty moment. I would just kind of sit down, think about it for a little bit and reflect on it and see which options do you have. Because I'm always the type of person, if something's broken, you could fix it or you can go in a different path. I'm a plan A guy. I don't have a backup plan. So if something's not working, there was something that caused that problem to become broke. So I could either fix it and move forward, or I could take a few steps back and think about a backup plan, which I haven't thought of a backup plan since 2008.
Jason, do you have a book that you would recommend to our audience? Maybe a book that has impacted the way you make decisions or the way you run your business?
Sure. I'll actually give two, because one has been a lasting impact on my life since I've started reading it and listening to it from an audiobook standpoint, because we have a pretty large yard. It's about 5 acres. And I can normally pound out an audiobook as I'm mowing that. And I always enjoy listening and reading to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Game changer book. I still, to this day, I'll listen to it. I won't probably read it as much just because, I'm busy. And I like to, if I can kill two birds with one stone, I'll listen to an audiobook as I'm mowing, just because, from a time standpoint, it saves time. Great book, great point of views in the book. And another book that's helped out from like a business standpoint is The E-Myth. That's really kind of helped me as far as getting out of my own way and realizing if you want to have a true business, you need to be able to have a business to where you could be working on the business instead of working in the business.
I totally agree with that. And I talk about that on some of my, Saturday shows that I do, which is the Step Up Your Game with Dan shows. And
nice.
I love that book, The E-Myth. For the listeners who have not read that, they need to read it because it definitely does change your mindset on how you work, on your business versus just always in the business as the technician there.
Absolutely.
Now let's shift gears just a little bit here. And I want to talk a little bit, Jason, about some of the things that you've done with the money that you've made up to this point in your career as an entrepreneur. So what is some of the most exciting places you've traveled, or maybe the most extravagant item that you've purchased with the money that you've made so far?
So yeah, as you start growing, first of all, I had a vision board in my office when I first got started. Vacation destinations, cars. I had pictures of my family because I always wanted to make daily improvements of becoming a better father, becoming a better husband. And some of the things, it's crazy. When we moved, that vision board was put away. And when we were unpacking in the new house, I looked at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. All these things that came true of me having this vision board constantly in my face was nuts. One of the best things is for my wife and I's 10-year anniversary, we got to go to Bora Bora in French Polynesia. And we stayed on one of those huts on the water, and it had the glass floor and everything. You could look down, and we got to stay there for 10 days. And that was really fun. We got to do that for our 10-year anniversary. My mom came up, watched the kiddos, and we got to have some alone time. That's been a great trip. We went to a tiny little country called Anguilla as well. I'm the type of person where I like to have experiences, either it be with just my wife and I or the whole family. That's kind of what it's all about, either going to Disney or going and seeing the Grand Canyon with the family, or going to the Bahamas and spending, 10 days there without, thinking about what's going on business wise. I like those things. I think the nicest thing, I have a nice truck. One of the things I would like to get down the road, just because I've always been a Corvette fan, is a nice Corvette. And, I like also having I grew up loving sports. So I've got like jerseys signed and stuff like that. So those are some of the things that I like to have as well. And they're pretty cool. I like having those.
So what's the number one thing on your bucket list right now? I know you mentioned Corvette. What would you say is the number one item on your bucket list?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would definitely have to say, got it. Pool for sure. We've already had somebody come out. I wanted to get a pool, not just for me, but I've got a 10, 8, and 3-year-old. And, you could either wait to get those things, and then by that time the kids are going to be older, and they may be going to college. And then after that, they may go get their own place. And then by the time you actually have the pool, it's like, why did we get the pool? So I'm like, get the pool. I don't know if I would say that's a bucket list thing. The Corvette would be nice to get. Not really big into like Ferraris or Lamborghinis. They're obviously great cars, but I grew up, my dad was always fixing Corvettes. I've flipped houses and he flipped Corvettes. He still does to this day. So, but yeah, that's cool. We've experienced quite a bit, and I love seeing the world. I think, one of the places that was on my vision board was Italy, and also seeing the Great Wall of China.
Well, that's a pretty cool thing to have on the bucket list too. Interesting thing about Italy is we just picked up some listeners on our podcast from Italy this past week. So it's kind of neat to kind of see how, I think we're in about probably 15, 20 different countries now with our podcast. And, we just started it, first part of June of 2018. So we're really excited that it's growing as fast as it is. I will tell you this, Jason, that a pool is a very good idea. Would you agree, Danae?
I would agree. We got one. This is our first summer with one. So
nice.
Last year, and we have a pool. We are trying to enjoy it, but we've had a little bit of a problem. But I think we finally got that straightened out. So I'm looking forward to it.
The biggest thing is the service industry with the pools is very odd, because you try to get people to do service on your pool, and it's like, they don't want to do it, but they're so busy with everybody else's pools that you can't get one to do it for you. So we've ended up doing our own pool chemistry, and we have the saltwater pool and stuff like that. But this house is about 15 years old. I think the salt cell in it is about 15 years old. So we're trying to figure out a few things with that. But outside of that, even with all those issues, the pool is a great idea. I would encourage you to, as we finish up this call today, Jason, you should get on the phone with the pool guy and get a date in to install it.
Absolutely. No, my wife actually brought that up, I think this morning or last night. Yeah, to give them a call and to get them to come back out and measure and all that good jazz.
Well, hopefully this will encourage you to do that, and you can send me some pictures in about 3 months of your new pool, if not sooner, and you'll be enjoying it as well. So, Jason, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to be on the podcast with us today. How can the listeners reach out to you if they want to start to follow you a little bit more and contact you?
Sure. So if they want to come listen to our show on iTunes, we've got the No Flipping Excuses show. That's a great show. We're putting about one episode out per week. So we're trying to just give folks value to that. If they would like some of our free tools, we also have my website, which is jasonluchesi.com, and that's JasonLuchesi.com. And we've got some really great free tools that folks could use. And you can always visit our Facebook page too, our No Flipping Excuses Facebook page. And if you have questions, you can post them. We're always there to help folks.
And we'll make sure we post those links in our show notes, which our listeners can find by going to toughdecisions.net and looking up this episode with Jason on it. And look forward to possibly having you on a future episode as well, Jason. I look forward to it.
Sweet. Yeah, I look forward to having you guys on our show as well. That'd be great. I'd love to have you and your wife Danae on for our show as well. And I really appreciate you guys sending me an invitation to be on your show. This is a great podcast, and you guys are getting consistent with it and having some great people come on and share some stuff to really, I hope, give people the energy and the motivation to just go out there and make it happen and don't care what anybody else has to say. Just go out there and make it happen, and don't let somebody try and tell you that you can't do what you want to do in life.
Well, Jason, you have my email. Shoot me an email. We would love to jump on your podcast as well. And until next time, have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.